And so we moved across from the east side of Australia over the top, still trying to find ports, and none of the ports that were projected would any longer take us. And we finally found a port in Fremantle, which is the port of Perth, which is Western Australia. And they allowed us to come in with various strict regulations. We were told to stay on the ship and not go into town at all. And if any of the people on the ship were found to be on the streets of Perth, they would be arrested and fined $5,000, which was changed the next day. But at the same time, while we were in the port, many ships were being turned aside, including that one ship that acquired some notoriety, cruising around the Pacific for a number of days, probably a week. And they had like 300 cases of COVID, and it became, I don't remember the name of the ship or the line, but they ultimately were allowed in Cambodia and then dispersed from there to their homes. We were allowed to stay on board in Fremantle. And ultimately, the Western authorities of Australia allowed people to go off the ship directly to the airport to be transferred to their homes. Now, on the ship, what was happening was that the staff of the ship of Holland America were constantly online and on phone working with the passengers to assign them departure times on the airplane. The people were making reservations, and within the hour those reservations were being canceled because all these flights were being canceled. And in the vestibule of the ship, which was the main area where people gathered and made contact with the various staff people for their arrangements for departure, it was pandemonium. I mean, every time their flights were canceled, they'd be weeping. I mean, really, it was just a scene from hell, if you want to use that analogy. People were weeping and shouting and screaming every time facts would change, and they would be frustrated in terms of being able to depart and get home. The interesting thing to me was, apart from the pandemonium, was the fact that I'd say there were probably a dozen to 20 senior citizens who had boarded in Fort Lauderdale, and the staff of the ship had pushed up the ramp their electronic wheelchairs that they could wheel around the ship by sitting on this electric cart wheelchair. These people had to leave these things behind because they couldn't take them with them. How they managed that, rather than pay the cost of transport of these devices, they might just as well buy a new one when they got back home, considering the costs of shipping these things. There was one dramatic moment where there's one gentleman who was on his electric wheelchair and quite debilitated. In fact, he had some kind of a helmet on because of a head injury. And he said, "I'm not leaving this ship. I'm not leaving the ship. I paid this ship. I refuse." Ultimately, staff people had to forcibly lift him off his chair in the midst of his protest and cart him down, and still screaming and still protesting that he should not be treated in this fashion. He should stay on the ship. I mean, it was really a horrendous kind of a scene. But, ultimately, the Holland America staff did arrange for flights.